guys, welcome back to my channel. In today's video I'm sharing some delicious fall recipes with you, which I'm very excited about. I have a couple of dinner recipes as well as a couple of other random recipes that are perfect for the fall time. So I'm really excited to share those with you. But before we actually get into all of the recipes, I actually have an unboxing which I'm very excited about. I've had this package sitting here all week and I'm so excited to open it and try these out. But I'm actually trying out the Caraway Pans. These are a non-toxic set of cookware. I'm gonna unbox them and show them to you, and then we're gonna get started with our first recipe, cooking in them. I have actually been meaning to upgrade our cookware for quite a while. I thought about going with stainless, but I did want something that was non-stick, so this ended up being the perfect cookware set for us. I have really been enjoying cooking with it the last couple of weeks here, but it is very good quality. I've been very happy. There's definitely no scratches or anything like that. I also really love that it comes with a storage system. I think it's so genius because you're not going to be scratching your pots and pans. It has worked so well. I just put it in my cupboard. You'll see here in just a second where I ended up putting mine, but it works very good. I definitely have not found that anything sticks to the pans. Like, I can easily cook eggs, no sticking or anything like that. I do have a discount code for you guys. I will have the link in my description box if you are interested, but I do highly recommend them if you are looking for a good set of non-toxic cookware. So this is the first recipe that I was actually making in these Caraway Pans, and it turned out so delicious. I am making a venison steak stir fry. Of course, you can just use regular flank steak or something like that, but I had venison steaks to use up. So I'm just starting off with some olive oil with a little bit of Worcestershire sauce in my pan, and I also like to add a little bit of teriyaki sauce to my meat while it's cooking. This is about 2 pounds of venison steaks, but like I said, otherwise use flank steaks if you want. And then while those are cooking up in the pan, I am just getting my sauce ready that I'm going to be putting on top. So I have about a 1/4 cup of water, and I just added in some bouillon in there, a huge scoop of minced garlic, and then I'm also adding about a 1/4 cup of some soy sauce in here, just a little splash of sesame oil, a little bit of pepper, some ginger, a couple teaspoons of cornstarch. I will have this whole recipe linked down below that I like to use. You can tweak it how you want, but it works really well. And then heading back over here, my meat is just about cooked. I added a little bit of salt and pepper, and then once that is done cooking, I just go ahead and remove it from the pan. And because this is venison steak, I am going to be getting rid of that extra fat in the pan. Venison fat is not very good, so I do like to remove that. So that's what I'm going to do, and then you'll see me start with the same pan, and I'm just adding another drizzle of olive oil in there. After that olive oil had heated up, I'm just adding in 1 large onion that I had sliced up, and then I'm also going to be adding in some bell peppers. I always like to use sweet bell peppers, that's just our personal preference. This is a great way to use up anything that you have left over in the fridge. I already had these sliced up and ready to go. I'm just seasoning them up with a little bit of salt and pepper, and then I like to cook my peppers and my onions for probably 5 or 6 minutes before adding in the rest of my veggies. So here I'm adding in 1 bag of these fine green beans, a bag of broccoli florets, and again I'm just adding a little bit of salt and pepper on there, and then I'm going to cook all of this together. I do like to add a lid on here, and I kind of like to let them steam a little bit. I know that that's not really typical for a stir fry, but that's what I like to do. And then once they're all cooked through, I'm just adding my venison steaks back in there and letting it heat up, and then that's when we're going to be adding in the sauce that we had mixed up earlier. You're just going to pour this over the top, give it a little quick mix together, and then you're going to let it simmer for just a couple of minutes, and the sauce will thicken up from that cornstarch in there, and it turns out absolutely delicious. I have served this over pasta or mixed in through pasta, and on this night we just had it over rice. You can also have it plain if you're going for something a little bit more low carb, but this is a really yummy dinner. On this next night, I made some homemade marinara sauce with homemade meatballs, and it was so good. These are fresh tomatoes from our garden. I just had a bunch of these cherry tomatoes to get used up. This is probably the equivalent of 3 of the little containers from the grocery store. And then I just have an onion that I just roughly chopped it here, just threw it in there, broke the pieces apart. And then I have about 7 or 8 cloves of garlic. Throw them on there. You're going to want a good generous drizzle of olive oil. You're also going to want some balsamic vinegar. Again, a good heavy drizzle of that. And then you're just gonna go crazy with salt and pepper. Particularly sea salt is really good on this one if you have it. And then you're just gonna put this into the oven and roast it. I will leave the full recipe down in my description box. And then once it's done, you literally just blend everything together, skins and all. If you have a good, powerful blender, this works so well. I just seasoned it with a little bit of Italian seasoning, oregano, basil, salt and pepper, and it was so delicious. If you've never made a homemade sauce, this is a really good one to try. And then after my sauce was all blended up and ready to go, I'm just making my meatballs. This is a pound of lean ground beef with about 1.5 teaspoons of garlic powder, a teaspoon of onion powder, a teaspoon of Italian seasoning, half a teaspoon of black pepper, 1 teaspoon of salt, and then you're also going to want about half a cup of some Parmesan in there. I just used the jarred stuff, so it was nice and easy. And then you're going to want about half a cup to 3/4 cup of breadcrumbs. I used a mix of Italian and regular. Then you're going to add an egg, about a half a cup of water, and then you're just going to give this a good mix together with your hands. You don't want to over mix it, so just use your hands, give it a really good mixing, and then we're going to be ready to shape them into balls. For this recipe, I am using a 9x13 casserole dish, and I'm just spraying that with a little bit of avocado oil. And then my favorite way to make meatballs is to use a cookie dough scooper. It works really well to get a nice uniform size. So I just like roughly scoop them all to about the same size, and then I go back and I will roll them out later. This is the fastest and the most efficient way to make meatballs that I have found. It works really well, and I feel like they're all very uniform in size and everything, which means they bake really nice. So I'm just getting all of those ready. I baked those meatballs at 375 for probably about 22 minutes or so. It's going to depend on the size of your meatballs, of course. Just make sure that they are fully cooked through. And then I'm just slicing up some mozzarella cheese. You can also use shredded for this, but I had a big block on hand. So I'm going to top this with my sauce, and then I'm going to take that mozzarella and put it right on there. And then I'm just going to pop this under the broiler for just a couple of minutes until everything is nice and bubbly and delicious. And these meatballs were so good. If you've never tried a homemade sauce, definitely try this one out. All right, for this next recipe, I'm actually sharing a pumpkin cake recipe. This is one that I've been making for years now, and it's one of our all-time favorites. So into my stand mixer, I'm just adding in 2 cups of sugar, 3/4 cup of vegetable oil, 2 cups of pumpkin, and then I'm just gonna mix all of this together with my paddle attachment until it's all really well combined. After it's all really well mixed, then I'm gonna be adding in my eggs. So for this recipe, you are going to want 4 eggs in here. Let all of those mix together, and you're also gonna add in a splash of vanilla. And then you're going to want to add your dry ingredients right in. So you have 2 cups of flour, 2 teaspoons baking powder, a teaspoon of baking soda, 2 teaspoons of cinnamon, half a teaspoon of ginger, half a teaspoon of cloves, half teaspoon of nutmeg, and then 3/4 teaspoon of salt. And then you're just going to stir this until it's combined. You don't want to over mix it or anything. Just give it a quick mix until everything is combined together. And then I'm just throwing this into my cake pan here, spray it with some oil so it doesn't stick, and then just pour all of your batter in there. This pumpkin cake is going to get baked in a 350-degree oven for about 35 to 40 minutes. It may take a little bit longer just depending on your oven, but that's about how long they're going to bake. And then here I actually just have some American buttercream that I had left over from my freezer. I had pulled it out and was using it up, but I am going to list out my recipe that I normally use for this. I almost always will put on a cream cheese buttercream on here, and it is so delicious. So I'm going to leave the recipe that I like to use in my description box, and then you can make that for on top of these, and they turn out so good. If you are looking for an amazing fall treat, this is definitely one of our all-time favorites. They are very moist and delicious. I like to keep ours in the fridge, and they just are amazing. I make them multiple times in the fall. Actually, as I'm filming this, I'm making them again for tomorrow. So I've already made it multiple times this year. Definitely a favorite in our house, and give this one a try for sure. I do like to add some cinnamon on top just for basically decoration, but it is so good. You won't regret trying this recipe out. For this next recipe, I'm actually just making some homemade applesauce. This is one of my favorite things to do in the fall with my kids. They love doing it. It's super simple. I also like to take apples that maybe have a few spots on them, like little bruises or something like that. Just cut the spots off. They're totally good. They might just be like on the softer side, but it makes for great applesauce. So I'm just peeling all of these and then I'm just cutting them up into some big chunks. I like to make my applesauce in my crock pot just because it's very easy. I can just let it cook, do its thing, and I can walk away from it. Of course, you can do it on the stovetop if you want to, but I just like to go for the easy route, so I'm just throwing it in my crock pot on this particular day. And depending on what type of apples I'm using will depend on how much sugar I add. Sometimes I add no sugar at all. Sometimes I add a little bit more, but I am just starting off with my crock pot here, spraying it with some avocado oil, and then I'm just adding all of those chunks of apples in there. I definitely could have used a smaller crock pot for this one, but this is the one that I had clean right now. So then I'm just gonna add in a little bit of cinnamon on there. I would say I probably added about a teaspoon if I had to guess, and then a little bit less than a quarter cup of brown sugar, a quarter cup of water in there, and then I just let this cook on high for like, I think it was like 2.5 hours, and mine were done. And then I like to just take my immersion blender and blend it all together. Of course, you can use a regular blender for this too, but an immersion blender is a really nice and easy way to keep the mess really easy and not a lot of cleanup. So that is what I would recommend using. That is actually going to wrap up today's video. I hope you enjoyed all of these delicious fall recipes. Let me know down in the comments which one was your favorite. And also don't forget to check out the Caraway Pans. I have absolutely been loving their cookware. I think you guys will really enjoy it if you are in the market for a good non-toxic cookware too. So definitely check out the link in my description box. But that is it for today's video, and I will catch you all in my next one. Thanks so much for watching. Bye guys.